welcome to the Pat Imig Sports Network, broadcasting from Imig AI Studios in St. Louis, Missouri. Now, your host, Pat Imig.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pat Imig. We're talking Chuck Norris today. It's sports. It's the Pat Imig Sports Network. Follow and subscribe on YouTube, get PISN. And to help us pay tribute to Chuck Norris, not only the actor, not only the man, but also the athlete, we have a black belt, Mr. Samuel George Catanzaro, who's an instructor by day, a karate instructor, and also a historian. Don't you have a history degree?
I do have a degree in history, yes.
Yeah. So you have lots of information and facts on Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
Let's just start from the ground up, I guess. When did you become a huge fan of Chuck Norris?
Oh, ever since I was a kid doing karate, because I started doing karate in like '97, and when I was about 5 years old. And Chuck Norris was just that thing, all the dads and stuff like that. He was one of the guys that would be referenced or something, him, Bruce Lee. Those were kind of the two main guys that people would talk about. And then he had like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but like most of the dads would say Chuck Norris. And then also, 97, and from then on it was Walker Texas Ranger was big. And
my grandma loved Walker Texas Ranger.
Yeah, everybody did. It was action packed. It was wholesome. Everybody. I mean, if you didn't, you're a commie. But
fair.
everybody. It was very, very popular. It was a popular TV show, and doing karate and just coming up, and karate was taken off then in the '90s and in the early 2000s. I mean, look at all the kids movies that were made, Three Ninjas, the Ninja Turtle movies, all that type of stuff. Everybody wanted to be karate. So Chuck Norris was huge.
Do you think Karate Kid? I think Karate Kid probably played a big part in that.
Yeah, when Karate Kid came out in the 80s.
1984 that came out, I think.
Yeah, 84. Yeah, 84. Because it came out the year after Rocky 3. But Karate Kid, that was kind of the transition from the blood and guts era of karate, which Chuck Norris came up in. And then the Karate Kid movie came out, and a lot of kids, young teens, started joining dojos, and that was kind of when karate started to become really watered down in the States.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Chuck Norris came up during the blood and guts era of karate, and the blood and guts era of karate was kind of through the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and that was it was one strike, one kill. That was Iken Hisatsu, which in Japanese meant one strike, one kill. And
Iken Isatsu?
Yeah, Iken
Isatsu.
And it's I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I'm not Japanese, but
get out of here.
It was I know, shocker. But it was one strike, one kill, and so it came from that samurai mindset where if I hit you, I'm going to hit you once because I might not get a chance to hit you again, and I'm going to hit you to break you or to kill you. And that was kind of these guys coming up in that era that Chuck Norris came up in. It was bare knuckle. It was you could hit to the face, you could hit to the body. Not a lot of leg kicks back then with the karate back then, the American karate practitioners, but it was brutal. And those blood and guts era tournaments, there's not a lot of them on film, but you'd hear these stories and you'd see these guys in action. You can find them on YouTube. And when I say Chuck Norris was a badass, he was a badass because he came through that blood and guts era. But the blood and guts era was destroyed by the Karate Kid film. So the Karate Kid film really helped.
How do you feel about that? That's probably for the best if you really want karate to grow in the States.
Yeah, it's it made it commercial and it ushered in, and people were making buku bucks off of karate. However, the blood and guts era, I mean, it was, if you were a black belt, you were a badass. And I think now you have a lot of black belts that really aren't, that really haven't been tested and tried and tested and all that kind of stuff. And when MMA came around, like UFC and stuff like that, and the grappling side of it, and then Muay Thai kickboxing started coming in. A lot of these karate guys, they had to put up or shut up. You know, there were guys that had belts that were like, oh, I'm a 10th degree, whatever, and it's like they've never done a push-up in their life. And then it's
like a resume on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and then you got a Brazilian guy coming in that looks all unassuming, and then he's taking them to the ground and tapping them all out. But karate now, like ever since like people have learned like the grappling and stuff like that, like Lyoto Machida, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, even Conor McGregor, a lot of his style is karate, that in and out blitz style. You got Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie. There's been a
I don't know. I'm not familiar with Michelle Waterson.
Oh, she's great fighter, great women's fighter.
Still active, or
I don't know. She's at the tail end of her career or whatnot, but I know that she's had kids and stuff like that. But I mean, she was, again, the karate hottie, and she great fighter, great women's fighter, great role model for women. But again, the karate, it kind of okay. Now we learned how to adapt in MMA and stuff like that. You have a lot of karate stars that really took it far. So there's always a rise and fall with it.
It kind of seems like, just from what you're saying, that MMA, UFC, Muay Thai kind of became the new blood and guts.
Yes.
Filled that void that karate had when our parents were our age.
Yeah, and at UFC 1, one of the announcers was Bill Superfoot Wallace, who's actually in a Force of One with Chuck Norris. He played the bad guy, and they fought. And Bill Superfoot Wallace kind of came towards the tail end of that blood and guts era. But he was one of the first announcers at UFC 1 because he was such an accomplished fighter. So it all the history ties in together,
I would imagine you've kicked a lot of ass if you have the nickname Superfoot.
Well, he's got the nickname Superfoot because he's got the fastest clocked kick in history, and even I think he's in his 80s now, and he still can do the splits, and he still does the high kicks and stuff like that. But he had the fastest clock kick in history. I think like over 60 miles an hour. So yeah.
So where does Chuck Norris fit into all of this when it comes to the era of blood and guts karate morphing into MMA? So where does Chuck fit into all of that? Because he's obviously didn't do UFC, didn't do MMA.
Right. Chuck Norris was the guy from that blood and guts era, was the American that went Hollywood, that went mainstream. And that's why he's so known.
So I got a sports analogy for the non-karate fans out there. Sounds like he's like the Arnold Palmer, what Arnold Palmer was to golf, the first guy to bring it mainstream in America, thanks to TV.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris is kind of like that, kind of like the Hulk Hogan of wrestling in a way, only he is for karate.
Yeah, and you see him on Letterman. Look up the Letterman interview. He looks so young, and he's doing a sidekick to Letterman's chest, and he was definitely that. He was the Arnold Palmer of karate. Brought it kind of to mainstream, and one of his students at his dojo in California was Steve McQueen, actor Steve McQueen, and Steve McQueen actually encouraged Chuck to get into acting. So and then he was in the Bruce Lee film Return of the Dragon. It was also called Way of the Dragon in Hong Kong, but here in America it was called Return of the Dragon, and he had his famous fight scene with Bruce Lee, which then just skyrocketed him, right?
So this was what, 80s, 90s?
No, this would have been in the early 70s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this would have been in the early 70s. So, and he had like minor roles here and there, but and then he became an action star. Tail end of the 70s and the 80s, then he became an action star, and
so even though he went Hollywood, he didn't actually. He's not a case of going Hollywood and abandoning what he is or was. He actually took what he is and made it mainstream.
Yeah. I was thinking about like The Rock, how The Rock, went Hollywood, left wrestling, but then it always seems like when The Rock comes back to WWE, when The Rock needs it, like when a movie tanked or with the Hawaii thing with him and Oprah,
pretty
and
much,
stuff like that.
Pretty much every movie tanks,
right? But like,
I'm not to say that I wouldn't like to have movies tank that I star in and make $55 million, but
it seems like he always comes back when he needs it. Chuck Norris never left the martial arts scene. Like when Chuck Norris would be on vacation, like he was talking about how he was down in Rio de Janeiro, and he was on vacation in Rio de Janeiro. His whole life is martial arts. His whole life is making action movies. And he's on vacation. What does he do on vacation? He visits all of the martial arts gyms down there and trains. And that's how he got involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and ended up becoming a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under the I think Gracie family, Machado family. But yeah. So
all these guys would say he's the real deal.
Oh, 100%. And when you watch episodes of Walker, Texas Ranger, and you see him, like he had the Machado brothers on, and so he's rolling jiu-jitsu, and it's like one of the first instances of Brazilian jiu-jitsu on TV. He's taken on, what was his partner's name? Trevette or whatever, and he's doing arm bars, he's doing kimuras, he's doing triangle chokes. You didn't see this stuff back then, and this was the 90s and maybe early 2000s, but you didn't see it yet because UFC hadn't really become, it was still a cult sport. It was banned in a lot of states, and so
yeah, definitely not accepted mainstream. I mean,
yeah,
the idea of that being on ESPN when it first started in 1990 or whatever the year was.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I mean, it was
totally. It was
that was worse than kids smoking dope.
Yeah, well, and John McCain for the longest time, it's human cockfighting and this and that, which actually boxing is more dangerous. Famous interview, Joe Rogan and Lou DiBella, and Lou DiBella is a boxing promoter, and Joe Rogan and Lou DiBella just go at it, and I mean Joe Rogan tears him a new one about UFC and MMA, the sport of MMA, and he's like, boxing's it's a dying breed, and now the only thing keeping boxing alive is like Jake Paul, and everybody likes to crap on Jake Paul, but it's like he's the one, and now he's got a good MMA card coming up.
He's the epitome of don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, 100%.
Because he figured out that if you can just market and get people to buy something, then it's legit. So he's as legit of a boxer as anybody out there right now, mainly because that whole sport, in addition to what you're saying, the health ramifications and being dangerous, it's also, there's no legal governing body. There's no one league of boxing. There's all these different networks. There's all these different champions. No one knows what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Which
sucks because when we were kids, I mean, the idea of like watching towards the end of his career, George Foreman, the Holyfield Foreman, Mike Tyson was always a draw. Boxing was amazing. Lennox Lewis even was kind of the tail end of that. And then pretty much at the turn of the century, there's been fighters, Deontay Wilder, who are a couple of other ones I'm forgetting, but it's not like it was.
Yeah.
And it's never I don't know how it ever goes back to that.
No, and you know what? The same problem that boxing has had, karate had. There wasn't really a lot of governing bodies in karate. There was a lot of governing bodies in karate,
right, but
not one cohesive body, and especially kickboxing. When kickboxing became a thing here, you have like WK, you have all these things, but it was hard to get it off the ground because there was not one single governing body, and that's why like MMA took off, because you had the UFC, and then you had Pride over in Japan, and these were two like, okay, these are the big leagues. And
and even with MMA today, you have a couple of offshoots that aren't UFC, but I don't feel like they're as prominent anymore as they were maybe even 10, 15 years ago.
No,
like Bellator and
like now you got like ONE FC,
right.
Strike Force back in the day.
That was the one was escaping me.
And but like even Chuck Norris, he had the World Combat League. I think that's what it was called, and it was like kind of, they were fighting in a pit. And it was great, and there was a lot of fighters that came out of it. Tim Connors from St. Louis, rest in peace. He was from he fought in that league. He was a professional boxer and kickboxer. I think Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who was in the UFC, he actually fought Tyron Woodley from St. Louis. He again, a karate guy. He fought in that league, but that league didn't last for a long time. And now you got like, I would say the one thing is Karate Combat, which is on YouTube. That's probably the number one karate.
That's the official name of it.
Yeah, Karate Combat. And like Bas Rutten's on there, George St. Pierre's on there, promoting it. You got Danny Trejo.
The actor?
The actor. He did like a couple of spoofs, like, oh yeah, I love karate, like all that kind of stuff. But I mean, but yeah, karate's never really went away. It's kind of ebbed and flowed. But Chuck Norris, he was the guy. He was training in his 80s. You'd see him hitting pads.
I was still getting Instagram ads with Chuck Norris on them for his health products that he was sending just last week.
Yeah. So, I mean, I posted a video not too long ago, and he's hitting pads, and, he's doing really good for 80. And, I mean, it's Chuck Norris. But, he's like, I don't age. I level up. The guy was he was such a wholesome guy, but he was the real deal. And I tell you what, for any, kids out there, he was not on steroids. I would have never guessed that he, I would have never guessed that he was. Yeah. And, but that's, where you have even like Sylvester Stallone. I love Sylvester Stallone, but, Stallone, he got caught in I think it was 2006 or 2010 with steroids. And, at the airport, it's like, well, yeah, but Chuck Norris, you look at his body.
Do they have steroid sniffing dogs at the airport? How do you get caught with steroids at the
airport?
I
don't know, but that was a big story. He got caught with steroids, and everybody's like, well, yeah, if you watched Rocky Balboa or you watched the Rambo movie that came out around that time, you're like, yeah, you mean a guy his age, doesn't have veins popping out of his forearms and stuff. But Chuck Norris, if you look at his body, he lived a holistic lifestyle. It was longevity, and you look at his style and it's like, yeah, that's how a man should age. But man, he was cut even when he was in his 50s. I mean, but it was a natural cut. It's not like The Rock where somehow you get bigger, So
you have a thing for Chuck Norris, huh?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the American man, and I mean that with all heterosexual respect. He was just, that's.
Did you ever buy the Chuck Norris? He had a couple of weight machines, I believe. I think my dad had one actually for a while. Because that was when I feel like the mid '90s you had Suzanne Summers. She was the famous actress from Three's Company. She left and then kind of resurrected her career by selling the Thigh Master. And then you saw for the next 10 years, Hollywood celebrities, in this case Chuck Norris, selling their own workout systems as well.
You'd always see it on TV. I was a kid though, so it's not like I'm gonna here's my credit card. For 3 payments this can be yours. But
got to watch out for that shipping and handling though.
But yeah, no, he was he practiced what he preached. I believe when he says, "Oh, we got this program here, for this machine," I believe he did it.
So you're saying he didn't just endorse it to make money. He probably actually used
100%. And he was the real deal.
Do you have a favorite Chuck Norris movie?
I like his cameo in Dodgeball. And Vince Vaughn turns and says, "Thank you, Chuck Norris." There's one movie in it. It's kind of a kids movie, and it's called Sidekicks. And I don't remember the plot so much, but I do remember the Chuck Norris scene. And there's a guy named Stone, and they're doing a tournament, and and Stone's like, "All right, Chuck Norris, let's see how good you really are." And Chuck Norris goes, "You're only going to see it once, Stone." And then it's just but it's Chuck Norris.
So it's okay.
So yeah, it's so
So even if it's extra cheesy and extra corny, it still works.
Yeah. I would say his movie, A Force of One, with when he fought Bill Superfoot Wallace at the end, that is an amazing fight scene. Because Bill Superfoot Wallace was a kickboxing champion at the time, and then Chuck Norris being Chuck Norris, former world karate champion, and this and that. That is a good scene to just watch. It's very realistic.
Which movie?
A Force of One.
And when did this come out? 80s, 70s? We don't need exact year. I was just curious.
Yeah. It probably the early 80s, I would say. Or then there's Lone Wolf. Mick. Oh my gosh! But that was he has David Carradine in that movie. Lone Wolf McQuaid, and he has David Carradine in that movie. David Carradine was the star of the Kung Fu show.
I was wondering where that was going because
Yeah.
that name sounded familiar.
Yeah, so and Lone Wolf McQuade did so. He plays a Texas Ranger in Lone Wolf McQuade, and that ends up kind of being the inspiration for Walker, Texas Ranger. So yeah,
Say that again. What became the
movie Lone Wolf McQuade? Chuck Norris plays a Texas Ranger.
Gotcha.
And he has David Carradine in the movie and this and that ends up being kind of the inspiration for Walker, Texas Ranger. That's kind of how that got greenlit. So yeah.
And that's what made so many grandparents happy in the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. You know?
Do you have a favorite episode of Walker, Texas Ranger?
The one that the Machados are on. The one that the Machados are on, it wasn't like my favorite back then, but now you go back and watch, and that did so much for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community. And the Machados, so they're the nephews of Elio Gracie, and they were in California, and Chuck Norris was training with them, became such good friends. He actually bought them their school, the building that they were.
Chuck Norris bought their school.
Yeah,
bought the building for them. Yeah,
and said, "Hey, here you go." And they were so grateful. Like Jean-Jacques Machado, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about it, and he just gave back. He was he never forgot his roots. Like, I'm a martial artist. Like, I'm an actor. I'm a martial artist first. I'm an actor second. Yeah. So it's but yeah. Or Zach was telling me about this the other day. What episode was it? Was it Haley Joel Osment?
Yes.
The Sixth Sense. And Walker has to tell him that he has AIDS or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that clip on social media. And every time I see it, I think it's fake.
Yeah, but I mean, I was telling him, I was like, if you had AIDS though, who better to tell you than Chuck Norris? Like, because you're gonna be like, you know what, it's gonna be okay. Like that's the whole thing. So, gosh, yeah, he's such a wholesome guy. So yeah.
So he, I think next year at this time they'll announce him as a WWE Hall of Famer. Because he
Survivor
has
Series.
He has met, yeah. So he did a couple of cameos with WWE. He did the Survivor Series in '94, I believe,
yep. With Undertaker and Yokozuna.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he fought off all the henchmen for the Undertaker.
Yeah, sidekicks Jeff Jarrett.
He was also in attendance at WrestleMania 7. They interviewed him right after they interviewed Donald Trump. And also the Fonz and Lou Ferrigno, all like in 5 minutes.
Really?
Which was like an 80s and 90s who's
That's
who.
a testosterone overload.
Except for the Fonz, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Henry Winkler, the Fonz, the character.
That's true.
Very testosterone. Henry Winkler, sweet guy, but wow, yeah. Gosh, what just a man, a man's man.
So you were here today to just make sure that everyone knows that he's not just a Hollywood face and an actor. He's actually not built, but he's helped build karate and in a way MMA in America.
Yeah, he embodied the like Budo. So Budo in Japanese, it's like the way, the warrior's way, and that was what it was. It's the old saying, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, and he truly was a warrior in the garden. He's a veteran. He served the country, did this. And a lot of people don't realize this, but
I didn't realize he was a veteran.
Well, yeah, he was in the Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's how he got into, his first martial art that he learned, Tang Soo Do, which is kind of like a Korean karate because he was stationed in South Korea.
Interesting.
And, yeah, I think he was discharged before Vietnam. But he's a veteran. He served this country. He was in the military. And I think a lot of people don't understand what makes him that way was his father was a raging alcoholic. His father was a World War II veteran, and his father was a raging alcoholic and would, take money and, abuse and whatnot. And Chuck Norris was the oldest of two brothers, and kind of had to step up to defend his mom and defend his brothers. And when he left for college or when he left for the Air Force or whatever, his mom said it's like the man of the house is leaving. So those Chuck Norris tropes, like jokes like, oh yeah, when Chuck Norris went away to college, he told his dad, you're the man of the house now. I mean, that's not entirely inaccurate, right? Like, because
when did that all start? It was about 10 years ago, I feel like, when you had all the Chuck Norris.
Okay, so I looked this up, and it was Conan O'Brien was doing a like a bit about like Walker Texas Ranger, like kind of doing jokes along that line, but because of the Walker Texas Ranger series. And then in 2005, around that time, Vin Diesel came out with a movie called The Pacifier. Do you remember that?
I that one thankfully has escaped me.
Okay, where he plays like a Navy SEAL, and all of a sudden he has to be a babysitter, right? And anyway, so he there were these jokes that were kind of started being written for Vin Diesel, but then there was one guy, and I forget his name, but he's kind of responsible for it. He was the one that used like the Conan O'Brien inspiration, and then did replaced Vin Diesel with Chuck Norris, which Chuck Norris 100 times more badass than Vin Diesel. Let's just be honest. So
yeah, the jokes wouldn't have worked with Vin Diesel.
No. And then
part of the thing I think that it worked with Chuck Norris was that he was kind of short. Like, he wasn't like a big, like, burly guy.
Yeah.
So like it almost like made those jokes even better, because even if you didn't know who Chuck Norris was, and you see him, you're like, huh?
Yeah.
He's not that big.
I think it worked with Chuck Norris because of his humility. He was so humble, and then also like he could back it up. But he was the strong, silent type, like if you watch The Sopranos, whatever happened to Gary Cooper, the strong, silent type, that was an American. Well, that's Chuck Norris, so, he doesn't cry or bitch. He just does what he has to do. So he's just, he's a lesson for us all. But that's why those jokes, the Chuck Norris sayings, they're still, I'm still getting some ever since his death, like,
what, people text them to you?
People text them to me, or I see them, like, as soon as he passed away, I said a prayer, and then I posted, I don't think Chuck Norris is dead. I think heaven just greenlit Walker Texas Ranger for season 10.
And they only had 9 seasons?
They only had 9 seasons.
Okay.
And then,
of course.
Yeah. But then I looked up, I looked at the comments, and some guy goes, yeah, Chuck Norris once told a woman to calm down, and she did. It's like, they're so great. But there's a good video online of Chuck Norris reading the Chuck Norris jokes, and he's just humble about it. So yeah, just a good guy all around.
Well, I've learned a lot about Chuck Norris today. I don't know about you guys. Do you have any other parting shots for Chuck? I feel like you got most of it out.
Okay, so he wrote a lot of books.
Okay.
And there was a book that he wrote in 2008. I have not read it, but it's called Black Belt America, and it's a blueprint on how to save this country. And go out and read it. So
you haven't read it yet?
I have not read it. No,
but
I got it ordered. It's on the. Yeah, I'm gonna read it though. And it was looking him up and this and that, and so But I think he was I think we ought to mention his faith. He was a very devout Christian. He was an extremely devout Christian. And he caught a lot of flack for that, but he was unwavering in his stance on Christianity. And everybody needs something to believe in, right? So that's what it is.
And you believe in Chuck Norris?
How can he not? But yeah. So yeah, no, Chuck Norris. Love you, Chuck. Rest in peace. Say a prayer for his soul.
That's Samuel George Catanzaro III, a.k.a. Sam Catanzaro. Martial arts instructor, historian, and Chuck Norris, president of the St. Louis Chamber of Chuck Norris Fans.
Ooh, we ought to start that.
I mean, I'm giving you ideas.
Yeah, we ought to start that. Yeah, Chamber of Chuck.
We appreciate everybody tuning in. Unless you got anything else, I feel like you got everything out, though.
I did. That went a lot faster than I thought. I was so excited.
We went a solid 28 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Chuck Norris would have went 30, but that's okay.
He would have. He would have, and he would have had credits at the end of it. Yeah. Rest in peace, Chuck Norris. For Sam Catanzaro, my name is Pat Imig, and we appreciate you tuning in to this tribute to Chuck Norris, not just a Hollywood face, but a man that lived by what he preached and also brought what he learned at a young age into the mainstream of America. And you can now argue that he's partly responsible for the popularity of MMA and everything else going on.
He was definitely a father. Everybody says that Bruce Lee was a father. I think that Bruce Lee wasn't one of the early fathers of MMA as much as Chuck Norris was. I think we need to put Chuck.
You think Chuck is the reason? More,
Yeah.
if it was down to just one person.
Yeah, I would say it would have been Chuck Norris. He embodied it. I think he was a father to us all. Yeah.
That's Sam Catanzaro. I'm Pat Imig. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and follow and subscribe for more. We have all kinds of good stuff coming down the pipe, and you can follow us at GetPISN. For Sam, I'm Pat. Thanks to Zach, and thanks to Indy the dog for not barking behind us. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. From the tip off to the touchdown, I break it down. Sports talk, royalty, I wear the crown. Dynasties rise, legacies never fall. Every win got a story, I tell it all. Last minute buzzer beaters, ice in the vein. Post-game speeches and champagne rain. From the World Cup heat to the Super Bowl lights, calling plays in the zone. Open up your eyes, Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Talking MVPs, yeah, I see the vision. Grinding for the chip, this is more than a mission. Trade talks, headlines, locker room vibes. Breaking news quicker than a 40-yard time guide. Eyes on the court, hard in the ring. Every athlete's journey, I let that sing. Olympic gold to college ball pride. If it's clutch, I got it covered worldwide. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Lights on, game on, no cap when the game's strong. Underdogs to the Hall of Fame, every win got a name. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night. Pat Imig Sports Network, dropping value like clockwork. If you really want insight, get it right. Watch the videos every single night.